Good afternoon, Eastern Time. This is Timeshare Solution or Surrender, episode 86, and this will be our last show of 2025 because we're going to be building a new format that I'm excited about, and I'll be sharing what that's all about in just a few minutes. We have a lot to talk about today. This is October 27, 2025, and our guests that we have today include Dawn. And Dawn Dawn, you're a resident of where?
Connecticut.
Connecticut, right. Okay, a northerner here. And we also have Candace. And Candace, what state are you with us from today?
New York City.
New York City. Okay, my baby lives there. Okay, and we have Bridget. And Bridget, what state do you live in?
Kentucky.
Kentucky. Well, I have a Kentucky area code, so but we're Floridians now. So I appreciate you so much joining us today, and I decided to go ahead and have the four of you here as I talk about our new format for 2026. We have, you can imagine, it's not easy to get 3 to 5 guests juggled every Monday, and invariably someone can't make it and rush around and try to find somebody else. So we're going to start January with 30 minutes live. And then the second 30 minutes, so we don't lose our hour slot, is going to be a timeshare resource center. And I've asked 9 of our past guests that are going to do short 3-minute clips about their resources. So we have Timeshare Users Group. The administrator, Brian Rogers, has been on our show before, over 30 years. There you can list your timeshare to rent or sell for free, and they're very informative forums about timeshare topics. Number 2, Jeremy from Destination Timeshare, who's chatted on our show, and he's been a guest, and he is a big fan of Marriott timeshares, and he has YouTubes and Facebook groups that will help people make the most of their timeshare. We also have number 3, we have our good friend Mike Kennedy from Koala. If you love the resort but don't love the perpetual contract, you can pay somebody else's maintenance fees. Check with your resort first to make sure that's allowed. That's a very good rental platform that my husband and I have used. Then we have Jonathan Stoker of Vacation Ownership Advisors. And also we have Andre from Volca and My Resort Co-op. My Resort Co-op is a 3-year program that we have signed up for, 48,000 points for every year for 3 years. The first year was 1,300, second year 900, third year 900, and we're done. So I am actually checking in this weekend to the resort that that Dawn is here to talk about today. And you're not just limited to one resort, you have the entire RCI universe. We also have John Cushman, who's been on our show, Timeshare Specialist, if you find a buyer or need help with resale or rentals. He also has a timeshare scam hotline. I like to call it Crime Share, where he keeps up with wire fraud to foreign countries, especially Mexico. We also have 3 attorneys that are going to join us. Attorney Mike Spin has been on the show. He's going to talk about comparing law firms to exit companies. We have Connor Spanny, who's going to talk about arbitration. He is based in Washington State. And we also have, we're blessed to have Rodrigo Jimenez. He has a law degree from Mexico and has taken the California bar, and he has done a deep dive on some of these Mexican contracts. Okay, so with that commercial for 2026, we're going to proceed. And speaking of exit scams and exit companies, not all are scams. And 2 days ago, we had someone that we talked for quite some time, and just at the very end, I said, have you contacted any exit companies? Yes, and I agreed to pay them several $1,000s. So I called her resort and they said, yes, we have a deed back program. You have to pay 2 years of maintenance fees, transfer fee, and a special assessment, which was several $1,000s less. And so she was able to get the exit company to cancel that agreement. And we have Candace with us today. We're not going to say the name of that exit company because they did agree to cancel. They should have told her to contact the resort first. So Candace was able, some of these exit companies will say, oh, no, you can't do it yourself. Well, we're going to start on a positive note with Candace because she did follow our self-advocacy program. And some people are just devastated when they call, just devastated. That would be Candace. And she's not the Candace today that she was when she first reached out. So I've asked her to explain, it's okay to say what exit companies you contacted and why. And I'll make a few comments probably. Okay, here we have, let me add our friend Andrew, but it says he's not connected, so I'm not going to be able to add him to the screen. So Candace, go ahead, and while I'm going to text Andrew, you tell us what we're not going to say the details of who or what or why you bought from, but let's start with how you found the process. You had a problem, and did you contact the resort first, or did you just start looking for exit companies?
Hi, everyone. My name is Candace. And as Irene stated, I pretty much followed this process to a T. She's awesome. The whole organization of Tarda is awesome. Let me start by saying that. So, pretty much as she stated, I was devastated, crying, looking for answers. I did briefly contact the timeshare to ask them to cancel, and they pretty much stated that my 10 days was up. I could not, and there was nothing that I could do. So then I went on this journey trying to figure out who I could turn to in order to get assistance. So I started Googling, and then I started asking what are like the top rated timeshare cancellation organizations. And then I formulated a list from there. And then I also asked, after I did that search, what free organizations are out there that got success rates and that were easy to kind of work with. And that's how I found Tarda. Also, looking through Chat GPT, they also recommended them as the number one free organization, volunteer organization that a lot of people can reach out to get some sound advice and self advocacy assistance. So that's
And
how.
I didn't even know that, that's how anybody would find us. And you did have a loan that needed to be canceled.
Yes, I did.
Yes.
And I
Okay.
put all that information in, and they recommended that I reach out to you guys. Chat GPT.
Wow. So it's okay to say what exit companies that you contacted and what their response was and how you felt about all of that.
Okay, so let's start with the very first exit company that I contacted was through Google search, and it was Wesley Financial Group. So one of the reasons I contacted them because they said that they work directly with attorneys. That's what Google stated. So when I hear attorney, I'm like, okay, this might be a great fit for me. So I reached out to them. And what I'm noticing, not about Wesley Financial, but all of the exit companies that I contacted, it's a long process before you actually talk to the actual person that's going to give you the price and that's going to agree to bring you on. And they make it seem like they don't work with everybody. They can't pick who they work with, right? So it just felt a little bit like a gimmick from the very beginning. So they let me down this rabbit hole. I had to talk to 3 or 4 different people before I finally got a price, which was anywhere between, if I remember, $5,500 to $6,000 at the time. That's what I was quoted. And what made me feel a little uncomfortable and I decided not to go with them is the gentleman said, you have until Friday to tell me if you're going to work with us or not. He literally said that, even though I'm going to pay him. So he gave me a deadline to get back to him. And that was a no for me because I felt like I was right back sitting at the resort being forced to make a decision. So I decided not to go with
When was
Wesley.
that? I was texting Andrew. Which company was that?
Wesley Financial Group.
Okay.
Right.
Now, go ahead. In their defense, I will say that once in a while, not everybody was capable of finding, someone was impaired or something. And if I have reached out to Wesley and say, this person really needs to be refunded, doesn't happen very often, but they have refunded, unlike many exit companies.
Okay.
And also, the owner of Wesley invited me to a legislative workshop in 2019. And if he hadn't had a lobbyist there, and his attorney testifying, there would have been some very anti-consumer legislation. If you retain the services of a legitimate timeshare attorney, you were not allowed to pay them a retainer.
Okay.
And at the legislative workshop, they're all attorneys, right? These congressmen. And you mean if I dispute a timeshare contract, I can't retain a law firm? And then the other one raised his hand. I still remember Representative Newton. I had to file for bankruptcy to get out of my timeshare, and it went downhill from there.
Wow.
But so, go ahead then. And what was the next one?
So the next one that I reached out to was Links Legal. And I believe that they quoted me, and it's the same thing. I had to speak to 2 or 3 people before I got to the final person that quoted me a price, and they said about $5,000. And what definitely made me not want to work with them is he never mentioned in the conversation that they do not work with attorneys. And I think that's kind of misleading when you have the word legal in your title, right? So
Right.
he never mentioned that he worked with attorneys, the organization. And when I clearly asked him, well, how are you going to do this? Like, is this going to be a foreclosure, or it's just not, I'm not going to take a hit on my credit? And he pretty much was like, no, you're going to go into foreclosure. He was alluding to, everyone goes through foreclosure if you're not paying. So I wouldn't worry about that. So
Well,
that
you
was
proved that wrong.
right. Absolutely. So the next organization I reached out to was Cancel Timeshare. They're pretty much standard because they have their pricing online. They have a breakdown, so you don't have to get through 3 people just to get the price in. But Cancel Timeshare was very brief when they were talking to me, and they pretty much was like, it's a money back guarantee. You have nothing to lose. It was just a little too quick for me, so I was like, I don't feel comfortable. And then I reached out to Stonegate. The young lady was very nice, but again, I had to speak to 2 or 3 other people in order to get a response on pricing. And there was no clarity on whether I would end up going into foreclosure or it would just be a clean slate once they helped me. But they did say it was guaranteed. I will say that. Last but not least was Centerstone. I believe the gentleman quoted me a price of around $4,500. And then if they're unable to resolve it, he said that never happens, but they cannot say they can 100% guarantee it. But in case they cannot resolve it, then you have to pay an additional $1,500 or so that they can turn your case
Wow.
over to an attorney if they cannot come up with a resolution. And I was like, well, why would you have to do that if you're almost saying that it's guaranteed? He was like, we have never lost a case, but we still cannot say 100% guaranteed because anything can happen. But the good thing that came out of that conversation was he was not shy about highlighting each and everything they would do in the process of getting the timeshare canceled. And he pretty much from A to Z outlined every letter, every document that was needed. And I cross-referenced it with the information that you sent to me. And I was gonna actually pay them to do what you were teaching me to do for free. So I said to myself, oh, so this is the process? Why would I pay them to do something when Tarda is teaching me how to advocate and do the exact same thing for myself for free? So that was a no for me.
And when you reached out to the company, was there a lot of you reached out to us only about a month ago.
Yes.
Yeah. So was there much discussion with the timeshare company?
What, the timeshare company? No.
Yeah.
Once they told me that I could not get out of the contract because the 10 days were up, that was it. That was pretty much it. And then of course the harassing calls came once they didn't get their payment and so on and so forth. But we didn't have any communication after that.
Well, we wish everybody had such a happy ending, but and we had one of our board members that wrote to their timeshare company every 2 weeks for 3 years. And we actually have two of our board members resolve their dispute, and it took 3 years, but it was, they were a significant amount of money. And they were pretty much everyone on our board except Jake, who's served 30 years on HOA board. And Andrew, I don't know if you can hear me, but if you can unmute yourself.
I can hear you.
Okay, so he's our veteran Pod TV guest, and we're really glad to have him. And I really, really wanted somebody from the military here. That he is an Air Force National Guard veteran. He was enrolled in the Air Force National Guard. And Dawn and Bridget, this will sound very familiar, even though you're Wyndham, and he purchased from Westgate. About what I call the developer engineer rental scam. And thanks for being with us today, Andrew, to support others. And you ended up involuntarily separating from service after serving 10 years. It was just kind of like the planets lined up wrong because you were transferring from the Idaho National Guard to the Utah. So we've been talking to each other about 3 years now. And you're still not out of the woods with it. But share us a little bit for the benefit of Bridget and Dawn, because they were both told that they could rent. What were the details that were provided on how you would make money renting?
Well, pretty similar to what everyone else has been talking as far as the other timeshare scammers out there. You can rent it. For us, it was unlimited getaways throughout the entire year. We'd have our week for just us, and then there's that's already paid for, and then any additional costs like little small fees for however many nights or whatever we want to book for reservations, and that could be all at any time of the year. And then on top of that, they say that you're an owner, that this is your property, that you can do whatever you want. But then when it comes down to actually booking reservations, my wife, when she started it in preparation for when we could start at the beginning of the year in 2022, she had to go through all these different people, and every single one of them, at least 6 of them, when we were trying to make the first reservation, would say all the different sort of pitches of, oh no, you can't use it here, you can't use it then and there, and all this other just excuses and dodging the actual use of what we were told we could use it for, right? So that was at the moment, just for context, that is the moment we realized, oh, we got scammed. And it was well past beyond the 10-day statute of limitation for us to back out. And honestly, at this point, it's not just a coincidence. It was planned. It was planned that way, where we bought in September, and then they said that we couldn't use it until the next in January, a few months away. And so if we could have access to making reservations within that 10-day period of time, we would have probably not be in this situation. But we couldn't even reach out, like I said, not until after that 10-day period. So with that pitch, being told that we could rent and to use it as an income investment and all these other sweet talking and sweet deals, down the road, it just, we would never have gotten a 4-bed, 3-bed, or four bed, 3-bath, or whatever it was, for just myself and my wife and our daughter. So it's, I can't say for sure, but the way that my wife especially does certain like things like this, if we would have been able to use it as we were promised and how it was sold to us, we probably wouldn't have, owed anything. We'd probably be making an actual profit.
Right,
3-4 years now.
we had, let's see, on Westgate, we had Robin on the show, and Robin is an Army veteran, and she works for the military EAP. And she said she's been through many timeshare presentations, but it was the first time, and this was Westgate as well. We also had, getting to Bridget and Dawn, both purchased from Wyndham. And we have had on our show in the past, Tom. So Tom actually went to the, see if we have, yeah, we have, these are the different social media groups, but Tom, he retired 23 years from the Baltimore Police Department, and he purchased from Wyndham. They said, and Andrew, you reached out to Senator Weiler in Utah, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tom reached out to his congressman too, and they always say, well, you signed a contract. But reading the contract didn't protect you because the contract
No.
states that you can rent.
Yeah, I actually went through it before talking to him to make sure I knew what I was talking about, and that's why I told him. I was like, I read the contract over again, and it states exactly that. And so he said, and this is what kind of was damning, especially in his position. I get where he is super busy as a representative, so I can't imagine all the other phone calls. But I said, look, this is happening not just to me. This has happened to hundreds and hundreds of more military members out there, to where it's a national security threat. And that kind of got his ears like, twitching a little bit, like, oh, okay, yeah. But then he said, look, I can't just make a law just for you, or even if I made a law, or we get a law to amend the Timeshare Act and all that stuff, it's not going to help you. I was like, oh, well, I mean, that didn't make me feel good, because he made it seem like, hypothetically, like, let's just say that it does get amended, and then anyone predated is, we're out of luck, basically, to put it mildly. And so it almost felt like it's him. And I'm not saying that's what he said, but the attitude in his busy going from meeting to meeting is just like, look, you're not worth my time, and there's nothing I can do. My hands are tied. It's like, well, I understand that we're a small group compared to millions of people, residents, whether that's local in Utah or local to timeshare states and whatnot. But like, this is affecting real citizens who are being scammed. And I briefly remember him mentioning, well, that's not the timeshares of the past. I'm like, yeah, you're right. No, this is something completely different. This is like someone realizing that they can go in with the same as timeshares of, I don't know, several decades ago, whenever they started, or 20, 30 years ago even, where, okay, it's working for them, but not for us, who are getting scammed. And now we're having to get forced out of potentially getting mortgages with homes. Like my wife and I, we are still not able to get a house because of how this has affected us. And even trying to start a business, it was very, very tough. And so having to take a lot of more pain that was unnecessary, though, yes, we signed a contract, but that, again, like you're saying, Irene, it wouldn't have helped us, because it states in there that we could do what they said that we could, and now we aren't able to do it. So
and the contract rescission period didn't protect you because nobody would attempt to rent. And
yeah.
we also had on the show Megan, that purchased from Wyndham. She was pregnant with her third child and told that don't worry about being your husband, a Marine, being deployed to a combat zone. You can rent it out and it'll pay for itself. She was on episode 36, I believe, and she explained in great detail. Number one, Wyndham keeps 40% of the income. And in the case of Tom, that I just showed in his truck, where 20 years he's been a Wyndham member, and they told him to buy more points. Everybody that has this many points, they buy some to rent. So he did, it didn't work. He goes to another meeting. Yeah, Wyndham's programs don't work. Call this company. So he did, and it worked. And after about a year, he received a cease and desist letter accusing him of commercial activity, leaving him with so many points he was forced to default. So, Dawn, you have just been, and one more thing I want to say too is one of the reasons you don't have the congressman's attention is it costs $100,000 a year to lobby at the federal level and 10 to 12,000 per month per state. And in 2010, ARDA, the timeshare industry body, the American Resort Development Association, they were fined by the Federal Election Commission for not calling donations voluntary. So now they automatically bill it, and you have to call them to opt out. When I go to pay my bill, it says pay your bill. I have to go to account history to see that $7, and they raise $5 million a year. So, Dawn, what has set me off recently is Wyndham won a $16 million judgment against an exit company. And in their press release, they stated, this sends a clear message that companies cannot mislead customers without facing consequences. Dawn, what do you have to say to that?
Well, not true. My husband and I were on vacation, and you have to stop at the concierge desk to get your parking ticket, passed. And they said, oh, now that we're travel and leisure, you have missing information in your file. You need to go to a meeting and presentation. So we went and we met with a salesman. And he said, the first thing he said was, Travel and Leisure understands that Wyndham owners have had a difficult time with sales and they want to make things right. So right off the bat, setting us up to trust them, trust Travel and Leisure, Wyndham. So
You've
then,
been a member for 20 years, right?
yes, yep.
Yeah.
And so then he started to discuss our age and, what would happen if we couldn't travel anymore, and who are we going to leave our resort system to? And so we said we, didn't have children, and he kind of skipped over that and went into, well, what if you're paying all these maintenance fees? There's a way that you could eliminate maintenance fees. He said you would have to purchase 300,000 points, and it sounded like that was a separate program. You put your 300,000 points into this program, and then July 1st, so we were there in January, July 1st, you deposit them. They will credit your maintenance fees for the next year. Next July, deposit again, they'll credit you. So I asked him two questions. One, will it ever end? Will they just discontinue the program? And he said, no, not unless you change your contract. So every year, just deposit and they'll credit every month for that year. And the other question I asked him was, are you sure this isn't a rental program? Because about 10 years ago, we were sold into, oh, don't worry, make the purchase. You can rent your points. You'll, pay it off in 3 to 4 years. Well, that was borderline lie, because we tried it all too. And I did call Wyndham and complained about it, and, just said, I want to be heard, that this was really deceptive what he sold us at that point. So I made it clear that we didn't want to have anything to do with rental. And the salesman said, nope, all you have to do is deposit your points and they will credit your maintenance fees. So this was January 11th, and he said, you have to wait 45 days to sign up for the program. So we continued on with our vacation. I did call them when we got home. I called him in late January because he had told us at the end of this, when you go to sign your contract, you'll get a yellow paper. It will have the name and the phone number for this program. So when I got home, I pulled out all my stuff, was looking at it, got the yellow paper. There was nothing on it. So I called him. He did call back. And at that time, I had asked him about that. And again, he said, but you have to wait 45 days for the contract to clear. And also, the timing was funny. The points weren't coming in until August 1st, but I had to deposit July 1st. So I was asking him about that. Never did he say at that point, oh, you're misunderstanding the program. It's not every month for the year. It's only 1 month. He never said anything like that. He still led us to believe we deposit the 300,000 points. We will be credited for the whole year. So May comes, and I said, well, before July 1st, I'm going to sign up for this program, get them my information, find out how it works. So I'm ready to go July 1st, because as all of you probably know, if you don't do things on the first day, you either don't get a reservation or you miss the boat somehow.
Now you were, let me stop you a minute. You were offered 2 proposals to be able to do this?
Yes, he said that he had given us a price for 300,000 points, and it was outrageous.
70,000.
But, yeah, over
70,000.
70,000. Yeah.
Mhm.
And he said, or you can buy 200,000 points at 48,000 and use 100,000 of the points you already own. And because you're looking at 2 things and you're like, well, obviously I'm not going to do the 70,000, so I'll do the 48,000. And my husband and I did say, can we have a minute? We stopped. We said, okay, now wait a minute. Let's think about this. And we did quick calculations. Okay, we can afford the 48,000 payment monthly because we won't have the maintenance fee payment monthly. And when he came back in, I said to him, okay, we figured this out. And because we won't have monthly maintenance fees, we can afford the 48,000 to pay. And he never corrected us again there, saying, oh, no, it's not every month. So May comes, I make a phone call trying to find out the name of, I got the name of the place. Actually, he just gave me a web address, I think. But through a couple phone calls, I ended up contacting Wyndham, whatever the areas were. And they said there's no program like that exists. There's a vacation rental program where you can put points in. And they both, so the 2 people I talked to, both calculated out and said, but it would only cover 1 month maintenance fee. And I said, so they really think I would spend $48,000 to cover 1 month? I can cover 1 month with my rewards credit card. I don't need to do that. So then I just started contacting different customer cares at Wyndham, and
Wyndham
they
Cares.
basically are saying you had 7 days to question. And I was trying to make them understand I had no questions in 7 days.
Because you had to deposit by July 1.
Right. And I couldn't even register for 45 days.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to hear it.
And Bridget, you're shaking your head.
Yeah.
I think it's even the same number of points, right? 300?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Share your experience, Bridget. And then what I'm going to do is, again, repeat with the $16 million judgment, Wyndham against an exit company. This sends a strong message that companies cannot mislead without suffering consequences. After you, I'm going to show, stay tuned, proof of a Wyndham sales agent that, according to a Wyndham sales agent, got fired from Wyndham, worked 10 years for Diamond. And we have 5 of his pencil pitches about how to eliminate maintenance fees. And now he's back at Wyndham. We were going to have someone that Dawn has been on the phone with, but she's going to be talking to Wyndham, so we didn't want to bring her on right now. But go ahead and share a little bit about was it a maintenance fee relief program or a rental program?
More of a rental program for me. So in May, we bought our first timeshare ever. Now, me and my husband have been going to timeshare presentations for years, and we thought we was the masters of just saying no. We never heard nothing that ever interested us, and we always said no. We would get our vacation or our free tickets or whatever, and we'd always just say no. Anyway, they got us finally. I
want to add, though, that I hear that a lot. I just go for the free gift. The gift isn't free.
It's not free, no.
Anybody that signs a contract is paying for that free gift.
But we start in May. We've signed our first contract. It was for 300,000 points, but we was getting a bonus of 500,000 points, and then they was giving us 300,000 Wyndham reward points on our credit card. The Wyndham reward points, they told us, would pay a year of our maintenance fees, so we wouldn't have to worry about that. He told us that we would take our 500,000 bonus points, put it with 100,000 of our annual points, and he would rent that out for $33,000, and that would pretty much pay off our loan of $48,000. And then we could finish renting it out, and we would have it paid off in 2 years. And he was going to be with us every step of the way to do this, yada, yada, yada. So we decided to sign, and we did that. I never did get, and I've still not got my 300,000 bonus points on my Wyndham reward card. I've not got my bonus points yet on my other, because they said in the contract in December. Another thing that they had us do was sign up for the Wyndham reward card. They told us it would be 0% interest for 9 months on mine. And then my husband could get it, and we'd get like another 9 months of 0% interest. And then at that point, it would almost be paid off. So we would have this 0% interest, which on the down payment, it was 0% interest. But when they started taking out our rental or our contract of $600 and something and our maintenance fee of $200 and something, it was a 25.99% interest on that.
Wow.
We thought that was going to be 0% as well, because they led us to believe the whole card had 0% on it. But it was only for the deposit that we put down. So yada, yada. That was our first purchase. And we kept trying to talk to him about getting this rental program. It's going to be 45 days before all your stuff is in there and you can do anything. That's what they kept telling us. So then we did book a vacation in August. So this was May. We booked a vacation in August in the same town. And they said, well, you can go to a new owner orientation. And I'm thinking, great, they're going to teach us how to use this rental thing. We get to this new owner orientation, which is at the same resort, same building, same everything that we bought from the first one. And the sales lady says, everything he told you is not going to happen. You can't rent your bonus points. You can't pay off your loan early because there's a 33% penalty. We can get your interest rate lower. You're going to have to buy 300,000 more points, and we can rent those out, but you have to have this program. It's called the Panorama program. And you don't have that program with the first contract. You can only do that.
There is a panorama program, but I think you can only rent British Columbia properties.
I mean, it was one thing after another. So we felt like we were like, she was telling us everything he told us was a lie. And we're sitting there going, oh my gosh. And we're like, oh no. So guess what we done? We signed again. Luckily, my stomach and my head for 3 nights, and I could not sleep, said, this ain't right. I pulled out my contracts. There wasn't a prepayment penalty. The benefits and everything was the same on one contract as the other. They didn't combine them to make the interest rate any lower. She said that would happen in 2 weeks, and we'd have to wait 2 weeks. Well, that was because that would be when the recession period was over. I was able to decide that second contract. I'm out of it. It's done. I've got paperwork. We got our deposit back on the second one. I was sick to my stomach. I was like, this is awful. There's no way we can make $1,500 a month payments on all of this. And she's like, I'll work with you. We'll get it done. We'll rent these. You'll have this amount of money. She was trying to show me on her phone, this is what I got for 1 week and yada, yada, yada. And I just was like, this ain't right. Luckily, we were able to, in 3 days, rescind it. I told her we did. She was so mad. You gave up everything. Now we can't help you. We can't do this. You shouldn't have done that. And I was like, after that, there was no way I was keeping the next one because I have such a bitter taste in my mouth with Wyndham because of that. I said, there's no way, this is ridiculous. What can we do? So that's when I got online and started looking. I called Wesley. I was also going to do Stonegate, but luckily I read reviews and things and found Tarda before I called. Well, actually I did call Wesley. And then I told Wesley, I said, I'm going to try to do this myself. And they haven't called me back. Thank goodness.
Well, and I see the cross behind you on the wall, and you're the one, you said you're a nurse?
Yes. Uh-huh.
And Candace, what type of work do you do?
I'm a social worker.
You're a social worker. Okay, you
Yes.
probably know CASA is, court appointed special family. Yeah, I'm a former CASA supervisor.
Yes,
and,
CASA, HASA, APS, all of them, CPS, yes.
Okay, and then we have Dawn, who shared with me, you're a former children's pastor.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, Andrew, what kind of work are you doing? He's muted.
Well,
yeah.
I am right now with a property management company. And I've done this type of work. It's a mix of remodeling, renovation, and so just fixing up houses. And right now I'm actually working on a swamp cooler, winterizing stuff. So.
And I showed everybody the picture of Tom Gwynn with the rental, forced to default, and he was 23 years with the Baltimore County Police Department. Who are you going to believe? Are you going to believe you guys, or are you going to believe the sales agent that the family that I introduced Dawn to bought from this sales agent? This sales agent, according to a Wyndham sales agent, was fired by Wyndham. He then worked 10 years with Diamond. Over on the left, it says 8631 minus 8631 equals 0. And that is an elimination, maintenance fee elimination period. This picture, they're Navy veterans, and they stood outside of Daytona Beach Regency for 2 years, holding up signs. They took July, August off. So what this person did that is disputing her contract with this same sales agent, now he's been rehired by Wyndham. I told her to join the Diamond Advocacy Facebook group. She she joined that group. She posted on that group, I purchased from this person at Wyndham. Has anybody, I heard from him, I saw on his social media profiles that he worked for Diamond Resorts. Has anybody purchased from him? Oh my gosh, we were both shocked. I didn't know any of the people. And they said, he's the biggest crook. We bought from him. My wife almost killed him. It just went on and on and on. And I have 5 of his pencil pitches, including one sent to me by a law firm that said, have you heard of this guy? So,
Wow.
and Dawn, the way you described your interaction with the Wyndham Cares Department was they practically called you a liar.
Yeah. And I mean, I just got off the phone on Friday with my second person. The first Wyndham Cares that I went through, they denied my request for us to cancel the latest contract and get our money back. And so I said, well, I want to go to your supervisor because I didn't like how she twisted everything I said to make it in favor of Wyndham. And she said, we don't have a supervisor. We don't have a vice president. We all just work as a team. Well, through a lot of digging and help with, from Irene, I did get somebody that's part of the executive care team. And I spoke to them on Friday and it went horribly bad. It was just awful.
Oh,
She said one of her statements was that there's no evidence of misrepresentation that I've indicated. And I sat
what?
down and I just wrote out all the ways he misrepresented what he was selling. And I just don't understand why they just don't want to hear anything. It's like hitting a brick wall.
I had some different experiences with some of the people I talked with Wyndham Cares. They agreed with me. Well, like whenever I said, yeah, the only reason why she said to wait 2 weeks is because my recession period would be over. And she said, you're exactly right. And they would even say, this one even told me, they said, they'll tell you anything to get you to buy. And they told me that from Wyndham Cares. And I'm
Really?
like, and then one of them even told me, they said, don't answer those phone calls. Whenever they start calling you about collections, if you answer the calls, then they can do something else, like they can do
Restart it. Restart it.
Yeah, like they can do something and then you can't foreclose if you answer the phone calls. They can.
Wow.
If you're engaging.
This was from one of the Wyndham Cares people that was telling me this stuff. So like they was giving me tips. And then this one kept saying, well, we can't do anything at Wyndham Cares. You got to go to Wyndham Owner Support.
Oh, right.
And so they gave me that number and they told me specifically, this little guy did, he said, you tell them that you want to reopen your claim because of the sales agent misrepresenting and asked for late cancellation. So I finally got to that point and they reopened the claim, but then the Attorney General's office contacted them because I had contacted the Attorney General and they've closed that back out. They said, well, since you've contacted the Attorney General, we're closing this claim.
Well, and that's reasonable because otherwise you can't have 2 parallel investigations. And we do like for you to file for the record. Unfortunately,
but I only did that after 2 attempts with the other, because I wasn't going nowhere. The first one said they couldn't restructure my loan until it had been 10 months out. And then the second one only told me we could try to sell through a third party, which my loan ain't paid off. And I'm like, my loan ain't paid off. How can I sell it? Oh, they can do that. And I'm like,
no, they can't. That's ridiculous. Oh, I can't believe it. And we had also a former IRS analyst that I introduced I don't think, she listened to the pencil pitch guys, that person, and she was told at her meeting Did you know the sales aide, it's a tag team. So the manager came in and they looked very concerned and said, did you realize that in 10 years, you're going to have to start paying for those $246,000 bonus points? So she is in default. And again, look at the credibility of all of you, and then we had, now to go over the process, since this is our last show for the year, and it's kind of emotional for me. It's been quite a journey. Our very first guest, episode 1. I also want to make sure I don't forget to say, we send out the link to this show as a rerun to about 600 people, almost nearing 600 people. And what we're going to do is those that receive that, and also you can get Tarda's monthly newsletter by filling out the contact us. But what I did is I went back and I listened to the first 6 episodes. And that what keeps me going is I'm just shocked sometimes. Candace, I introduced you to somebody that was devastated, right? Over the phone.
Yes.
Yeah. She was, and she said, I stayed up till 3 a.m. watching your pod TV shows. And then I tried to go to sleep and I got up at 5 and I watched another one.
Yep.
And then someone I just talked to yesterday said, yeah, I've watched about half of them. And there was a law firm that said they appreciated episode 62. That person owed Hilton $5,500 a month.
Holy.
Okay, and then she was on with Norma that owed Wyndham $4,300 a month at age 80. And
Oh my gosh.
they were Worldmark people for years and years. They loved it. Her husband, a minister for 53 years, and they'd use it for their presbyteers for retreats. Goes to a Wyndham presentation, and they say, oh, you're going to lose your Worldmark Club Pass if you don't buy Wyndham points, which was a lie. That's how they booked
What?
Wyndham properties. Right.
Wow.
And so both of them resolved their disputes. They were able to resolve their disputes. So there have been a few instances when Wyndham does care, maybe 2% from what's been reported to me. And and then it's important not to give up. Not everybody has the time or the temperament, but to keep going with it. But anyway, I watched the first 6 reruns, and we're not going to rerun it if someone resolves. So our board member that wrote to her developer every 2 weeks for 3 years that was able to resolve, we're not going to do that rerun. So we're going to rerun on the first Monday of November. Number 1 is Taya. Taya's in the Army. She was 11 years with the Army National Guard, but she switched to the Army because they'll pay for her law degree. I've actually introduced her to an FTC lawyer, and she became a class action named as a lead plaintiff in a class action lawsuit against Wyndham about the Service Members Civil Relief Act. Andrew became a lead plaintiff briefly with the Steins versus Westgate. So Westgate and all the developers are arguing that it's not like a home mortgage loan because the Military Lending Act exempts home mortgages. And the judge, I was at court when Judge Dalton ended the day by saying, when I check out of a timeshare, I can't leave my underwear and toothbrush. It's not a mortgage loan. And so, but Andrew, you got dropped, I believe, because you were enrolled but not activated when you were with the Air Force National Guard. Andrew, can you hear me? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Yeah. So you did talk with a law firm for a while. So Taya was able to settle, and that's a publicly filed lawsuit. So we'll do that rerun. And then the third rerun, we're not going to do because they held up signs outside of Westgate. And one of them, there were 3 protesters, and 2 of them were the rental scam at Westgate, and both of them got complete resolution. One of them she didn't need a Westgate timeshare because their family home was in Orlando. She had a t-shirt business in Boston. Oh, you can combine your t-shirt business with this rental business, and I'll even come up with a name for you, Jackie's Vacays. Well, and then, so the other one, she came up with a Facebook name, Bend Over. Ben has 2 N's. And she launched the Westgate Timeshare Hostages Facebook group that has grown by leaps and bounds. We really need somebody, Dawn and Bridget, Candace, even though you're not Wyndham, there is an unhappy Wyndham Facebook group.
I've asked to join it and they've not accepted me.
It's been abandoned.
Oh,
The
okay.
admins are MIA. So, and because I said, why don't you call it Wyndham Unhappy? More people would find it. So we really need to start a new, I suggested the Diamond Advocacy Facebook group in February 2017. I remember the admin, who's an economics professor in upstate New York, said, I don't know, 30 people, I think that's too many to have in this group. Today, there are 10,500, almost 11,000 now as member. And social media, because everybody's contract said, y'all agreed, I did not rely on any oral statement to make my purchase. Now, one thing we'd like to have the lawmakers do is amend that to say that should be disclosed at or prior to the presentation.
Yes.
Well, of course, they don't want you to know that. So it's a couple sentences in volumes of fine print, right? Now, going forward, Dawn's a little bit farther along than you, Bridget. Have you talked to Wyndham yet?
Just the last time was via email when they closed out that case because of the Attorney General. I've not heard anything back from the Attorney General in Tennessee or from Wyndham since then.
Well, and the Tennessee Attorney General is pro-consumer. And the Florida Attorney General, I know because I'm a former manager of Senior versus Crime, which is a special project of the Florida Attorney General's. All they do is pass your complaint to the developer. The developer sends back the contract with the T's crossed and the I's dotted. Here's your initials where you agreed you didn't believe anything our sales agent said. Right now, Andrew, Bob was on our show. He's an Army National Guard veteran and a prison nurse. His wife works in lending, and they were terrified because his wife works in lending, could affect her career, right? And he texted me last week. He was thrilled as he could be. In August, his credit score was 680, and today it's 720. So anything to show it's coming back up. Now, Dawn, it's an uphill battle if you have no loan, right? You have no loan.
I paid off my loan with Wyndham and took a private loan because the interest rate was lower.
Yeah, so you have that. And we had someone that called me over the weekend, a retired police officer, and she lost almost her entire inheritance of $64,000 buying from Hilton, thinking she was buying a condo at Trump Towers in Las Vegas. Hilton has some inventory there. So we only have 1 minute left. And I really appreciate everybody that's on here today. Andrew, I'm glad you got to meet everybody. And we're going to, in the first of the year, it'll be interesting to have everybody back to see how things are going. Candace, we love to have you back so that you can support others.
I would love to be back.
Become one of us. And, and so Dawn and Bridget, think about launching a Facebook group, because we had Club Exploria launched a Facebook group, and it's a big alligator sitting in a beach chair with a drink in his hand and a sign that says "Stop, No Exit" for Club Exploria Hostages Facebook group. So the power of social media is very powerful, and members supporting members. Thank you, everybody, and have a great holiday season, and we will definitely be staying in touch.
Yes. Good luck,
Okay.
everyone. See you
You
soon.
too. Yep.
Okay.
Bye-
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.